Hello Planeswalkers, Andrew here, hosting Taste the Cardboard for the first time. This is the show where we talk about specific mechanics, their inspirations, and how well they represent their inspirations. For today's video, I wanted to go over the flavor of Adventure, Mutate, and Mill, since Mill is now officially a keyword as of Core 21. The first mechanic of the day is Adventure, a mechanic that premiered in Throne of Eldraine. First off, Throne of Eldraine was based on both Grimm's fairy tales and Arthurian legend. This is a pretty broad range of stories the set took inspiration from, and so the way they decided to represent these stories is in the Adventure mechanic, which slaps an instant or sorcery onto the bottom left-hand corner of some creature cards. You can pay the Adventure cost to exile the card and cast the Adventure effect, then you can cast it from exile later as the creature. The Adventure effect can be taken to represent a given story, with the creature side of the card representing a character in the story. Beanstalk Giant is pretty obviously from Jack and the Beanstalk, and Magic's version is made of plant matter. Its Adventure effect is called Fertile Footsteps, and has you grab a basic land from your deck and put it onto the battlefield, with the flavor being the giant walking through a field and growing plants in its wake, those being the lands that you grab. Then you can play the giant. It's as big as the number of lands you control, so the plant giant gains power from the land he's walking through. Rimrock Giant has the Adventure effect Boulder Rush, which is an instant that gives target creature +2/+0 for the turn, the flavor being that the boulders are chasing the creature and bowl over whichever creature or player that creature attacks. The creature side is a Dwarf Knight. Sorry, Tyler recently got me to start reading the Legends of the First Empire books, and they call dwarves Durgs in them. The Dwarf Knight can't block, since the same boulders from Boulder Rush are chasing him, and he can't stop long enough to block or he'll be crushed. Merchant of the Vale has Adventure, Haggle.
What are you buying? What are you selling?
This guy's just a merchant selling strange and possibly magical items, if the card art is to be believed. Haggle has you discard a card and draw a card, and the creature lets you pay to discard a card and draw a card. You trade with him either way. The Adventure spell is really just a cheaper way to use this effect. Love-Struck Beast is a particularly good example of flavor, clearly being Beast from Beauty and the Beast. For its Adventure effect, Heart's Desire, it makes a 1/1 human token, i.e. the Beauty. And then the Beast can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. The Beast is so stricken with grief if his SO isn't around, and thus can't attack. Adventure is a fun mechanic, the card art representing one story, and the two different effects representing two different parts of the story. It's a clever way of doing fairy tales. Our next mechanic, Mutate, is a bit more straightforward. Mutate originates in Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths, and Ikoria is a plane full of massive monsters and odd chimeras. The weird and crazy creatures that populate Ikoria are often twisted versions of creatures you can find in other realms across the multiverse, mainly due to the fact that actual mutations are common on the plane. There are plenty of spliced animals, like Majestic Auricorn, a spike-covered unicorn, and Porcuparrot, quite literally a porcupine crossed with a parrot. There's also Pouncing Shore Shark, a shark crossed with a lion, Regaliasaur, a lion crossed with a lizard, Sawtusk Demolisher, some kind of mammal crossed with a beetle, Souvenir Snatcher, a crow with a shell and a long prehensile tail, and Vulpikeet, a fox with bird wings. And then there's the mono-black mutate creatures, Cavern Whisperer, Chittering Harvester, Dirgebat, Insatiable Hemophage, Mind Leecher, and Zagoth Mamba. Just what the f***? Anyways, the mechanic itself has you pay an alternate cost to place a mutate creature either on top or beneath a non-human creature, likely because Ikoria just has vanilla humans, not mutant humans. The stack of mutated creatures is the power and toughness of the creature on top, with all of the creature types and abilities of itself and the creatures beneath it. The creature stack gains more and more abilities and creature types the more you mutate it, which becomes a lot to keep track of after you mutate it a few times. This both represents the creature becoming more and more of an abomination as it mutates, as well as the base creature, or the creature on top, expressing itself more dominantly than the other mutations, with the stack using the top creature's power and toughness. Since the apexes, basically Ikoria's god creatures, all have mutate, it would make sense that they would always mutate on top, at least for flavor reasons. An apex likely wouldn't allow any mutations to take them over, so they'd just take minor traits from their mutations. I don't know. Maybe that last part of that, the apexes, is a stretch. Maybe it doesn't even make sense. Hit the dislike button if that was entirely unintelligible. Smash the dislike button. Please don't, actually. I mean, you can if you want. I don't command you. But, like, maybe appreciate it if you didn't. The last keyword I would like to go over is the recently christened mill. Everyone's called it mill for years now. This is the first time it's actually been called mill on the cards. First off, in Magic, cards often represent memories, thoughts, and knowledge. Cards like Brainstorm and Ponder, which both have you choose whether or not you want to keep certain cards and put certain others back into your deck. The mechanic Scry is also indicative of this, with the word scry literally meaning foretell the future using a crystal ball or other reflective object or surface. While you may not use a crystal ball when you scry, scrying does let you check the top card of your library and choose to put it either back on top or on the bottom. You can then foretell, the next card I draw either is X card or definitely is not X card. You're welcome for the micro taste the cardboard on scry. Additionally, and this is just what I've been told since I first started playing the game, players are supposed to be planeswalkers duking it out, and their spells are recollections of creatures and spells they've seen across the multiverse, that they then conjure up copies of to use in battle. Also, your deck is called your library, something that's echoed in the planeswalker Tameo and the scrolls she carries that have some spells written on them, a sort of portable library. So if checking cards is seen as either thinking or foretelling, and drawing cards is gathering knowledge, and casting spells is the player recalling a memory, and your deck of cards is a library of knowledge, then what about mill? Putting a card from the top of your library into your graveyard. My god, it's actually removing knowledge from your library, draining memories from you. This is backed up by cards like Thought Erasure, where the effect is that you rip a non-land card from an opponent's hand and toss it in the trash, erasing their thought. That means a player's hand represents the thoughts currently in their head. Okay, so maybe milling cards is more akin to taking someone's flash drive of totally not NSFW Transformers art and tossing it in trash, so they can no longer access it. Stuff can be recurred from the grave. Maybe then it's like deleting a file from someone else's computer. They can still theoretically retrieve it from the recycling bin. That must mean that exiling a card from a hand or library is actually the thing that's like throwing someone's flash drive into a fire. Or, to take a darker approach to mill, what if your hand represents current thoughts and your library represents your memories? Altar of Dementia is an artifact that lets you sack creatures to have an opponent mill cards equal to that creature's power. Dementia is a degenerative brain disease, most often seen in the elderly. This card represents an altar that actually wears on someone's mind, and it does so by milling them. Ashiok is a planeswalker that specializes in pulling the memories from people's minds and making their greatest fears real, and every one of their cards has opponents mill in one form or another. Jace the Mind Sculptor is another example of this. He's literally called the Mind Sculptor, and you can just look at the top card of someone's library with his ability and choose where to put it, literally shaping that player's memories. Cathartic Adept is an obscure card, a creature that taps to mill someone for one. His flavor text reads, "Forget. Only then will there be space for hope between the pain and fear." The person this card represents appears to be someone who deletes specific memories in others to free them from torment and pain, a positive form of messing with someone's memories. If we follow this line of logic even further to the way that mill players try to win, by decking someone out, we find something interesting. A player loses the game if they go to draw from an empty library. Maybe they lose because their well of memories is used up, or is ripped away from them. Maybe their mind is too empty to continue. The planeswalker that said player represents literally has no thoughts, head empty, and turns into a vegetable before their opponent's eyes. Maybe that's why a player with no library loses the game. They can no longer fight, can no longer even remember how to fight, or how to speak. Decking out, flavor-wise, is a terrible fate for a player character to succumb to, which means that players who make it their goal to win by deck out are truly the most evil and unfeeling players in all of Magic the Gathering. On that note, that just about covers all of the mechanics I wanted to look at. I'm typing this script at 1:30 AM, so I sure hope it's intelligible. I'm sure future me will catch any mistakes. I did. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment letting us know what you think. And if you want to see more from us in the future, think about tossing a sub our way. Have a great day, all. That is, if you even can, after that bit of existential dread I just dropped on you.